Hey everybody, Sean O'Connor here with Macabre Daily, specifically the Paper Cuts horror literature column, and I have none other than Philip Fracassi with me. Philip, thank you so much for coming on Paper Cuts tonight.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you.
You got it. Well, look, let's get to some visual aids, why don't we? Philip is probably going to have written either a novella or a novel by the time we're done with this interview. We've got A Child Alone with Strangers. We have got Gothic. We've got D7, which is floating around here somewhere. Forgive me, Philip. Uh, we've got Boys in the Valley. We have the third rule of time travel. And then we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre, Philip's new octogenarian slasher novel, which I absolutely loved. And we're going to get into it because I have a lot of questions about the slasher influences there. But also, Philip, we have Serafina was announced for 2026.
Yes, it comes out in April.
I don't know where you find the time.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. All I can tell you is that it's my job. I write for a living, and and I take it very seriously, and I take, as a job, and I'm at my desk a lot, and I'm editing. I'm actually editing Serafina. It's in the background of my computer right now. I'm doing final edits right now on it. Um, and then I'll have a story collection coming out next September called Traps and Specters.
Love it.
And then I have I've already announced Gothic 2
That I
coming
do.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming out in April 2027. And then I'll be making another announcement. I just today closed on business terms for a new book for summer 2027 for a new novel. So there'll be two novels in 2027 as well. So we're still working on the contract and stuff, but it'll happen. The terms are done. So yeah, so exciting. A lot of good stuff coming out.
It's incredibly exciting. I mean, it's great for us readers and horror lovers because you are one of my favorite authors. I
Thank
worry.
you.
I want you to hydrate. I want you to get 8 hours a night.
I have my water here. I'm good. I'm
Good.
drinking water.
Oh, I worry about you a little bit. All right. This is so much great stuff, in the future and that we have out now. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the new novel. I definitely want to talk to you about stuff that we have as far as your work hitting the screen. We'll save that till later. I'm just
Yeah.
chomping at the bit to get into the novel. Okay.
Yeah.
There seems to be a unique moment in 2025 with what I'm calling octogenarian horror.
Yeah.
Did you see the film The Rule of Jenny Penn?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah. I know the director, Ashcroft,
get
um,
out.
James Ashcroft. Yeah. Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah. He's doing a lot of horror right now. And this is all public. He announced that he's doing a Grady Hendrix book, and he announced a
which
project
one?
with I want to say it's and this. Don't quote me for those listening. I think it was How to Sell a Haunted House.
Oh, oh,
It
oh.
was announced. You can Google it. And then I know he just announced recently that he's doing something with Stephen King. Um, but I can't remember what that was. But yeah, so he and I have had several conversations, and yeah, so he's a big mover and shaker in the horror space right now as far as like adaptations.
Well, I mean, after Jenny Penn, it's not surprising. That was
Yeah,
one of the best movies of 2025 so far. And that's saying a lot because 2025 has been incredible for horror. But that film is
yeah.
that's something.
Lithgow was outstanding in that movie. Just so creepy and fun.
Did you get
Yeah.
the vibe that he was kind of dialing into, which I thoroughly enjoyed? He was kind of dialing into some of his past De Palma work, where he just
Oh yeah.
goes nuts with it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. I definitely got that vibe that it was a throwback performance by him for sure. For sure. Yeah, he was pretty creepy and fun.
So we've got that film comes out, and then we have Todd Keisling last March. He releases The Sundowner's Dance,
Yep.
which was more of a cosmic dread, Lovecraftian influenced retirement home horror novel. It's fantastic. Todd
Yeah.
knocked it out of the park. And then I stumble upon the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi, and I had to immediately reach out to your publisher and I said, please, yes, please, and thank you. May I review this? And can I talk to Philip? And they were kind enough, and I do appreciate it, kind enough to set this up between the two of us.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start with, okay, where did you get the idea? How far back did it go? What sparked it? And what were the influences?
Yeah, it's a lot of times with these things you kind of don't have a great answer, but I actually do have a great answer for this one in the sense, at least in the sense that I know the answer. Um, but I want to say one thing first, and I'll tell you because I think it's interesting. Somebody else brought this up about why do you think there's so much quote unquote septuagenarian fiction or horror or whatever, and part of me and I actually didn't have a great answer, but the interviewer had a great thought, which I really been thinking about, which is like, I wonder if it's generational to a degree. In other words, that Stephen King generation of writers who grew up in the '80s, like me, and like Kiesling, frankly, and others, um, and Ashcroft or whatever, and it's kind of like, our parents are getting or deceased or old. And I don't know. Part of me wonders if it's like just like we're hitting that groove or we're becoming more aware of that age group because
Wait,
we're getting older. And maybe that, who knows? But anyway, that's one possible explanation. But as far as Autumn Springs is concerned, I was doing a tour in 2023 for Boys in the Valley. And my wife and I were touring around the country. And we were in Virginia and we were staying at this like Marriott, I think it was like or Hilton, whatever it was. It was one of the chains, and and the hotel, and it was up on this hill, and it was like four or five old Victorian kind of like Civil War era brick building. It's Virginia, right? And so it's like more like a campus, and there's nothing, but it's surrounded by rolling green hills and this beautiful. And we were kind of strolling around this, beautiful, you know, hotel, I guess, but such a strange place. And I said to my wife, I said, "Why we're just going to walk around?" I said, "This feels more like a retirement community than a hotel." And by the time we got back to the room, I was like, I was already like, the wheels are turning, and I was like, well, wouldn't that be an interesting place to set a horror story and or maybe even like a serial killer story. And then what if there was a serial killer in a retirement home? What would that be like? And how would the people respond? And how would the police respond? And would people take them seriously? And all these questions just flooded into my head. And I literally, this is true. I went back to the hotel room. I opened up my laptop and I wrote the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre. And then I wrote like a paragraph and I just emailed it off to my agent because I didn't want to like forget it. And then we went to dinner or whatever. The next morning, I woke up, my agent replied and said, "I love this. You've got to do this story." And then a couple days later, maybe a few days later, I was in New York City as part of the same tour. And I was having drinks with my editor at Tour Nightfire. And I said, "Hey, I had this idea. And it's basically a serial killer in a retirement home. It's called the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre." And she's like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
Right. She's like, "I'm in. Let's do it." So that was it. And then from there, I just, let it gestate, and Rose sort of, like I say in my afterward, she sort of arrived fully formed with all this kind of baggage and depth, and I just fell into her so easily, and yeah, and it all just kind of bloomed from there. It was not a typical novel for me in the sense that I did not outline this novel, which is very atypical for me. All my novels are heavily outlined. Um, I'm a big believer in knowing the entire story before I start writing because I don't want to be thinking about what happens next when I'm writing a chapter. I want to know what's going to happen so I can introduce things or seed things or misdirect the reader, or I can just focus on the prose. I can focus on the dialogue. I don't have to think about, gee, I wonder where this is going. But this novel particular, for some reason, refused to be outlined. And so eventually I just got so frustrated. I was like, screw it. I'm just going to start writing it. So I actually ended up just pantsing this one, which was the first for me.
How did that feel? Because you're a plotter, not a pantser.
I'm a plotter.
Freedom?
Yeah. Terror would be the feeling, I would say. Massive doses of daily anxiety. No, I didn't. I ultimately I enjoyed I enjoyed it, and I was glad that I did it, and I learned a lot doing it that way. Um, um, but I did more rewriting than I would normally do. Normally, when I do a first draft, because I do an extensive outlining, the first draft is pretty much there. I mean, it's pretty much what you read when you buy the book on a at a bookstore. It's I do maybe some minor changes or polish. I do more of a polish. But then maybe an editor wants me to change, make add a scene or two to give one character more screen time or whatever. But this one, the rewrites were a little more extensive because I wrote it as a pantser, but it was fun. It was interesting. It was very much tightrope without a net, and which I know a lot of writers love. I'm see a lot of writers are like, oh, I need that kind of like thrill of like figuring it out where I'm going, and I like that part of it. I just don't like I feel like I'm doing the reader a disservice by not having the story more plotted or really more thought through. And so for whatever. But I did enjoy it. I would hopefully, it's not something I would like to do again if I can avoid it. But if I did have to do it again, if for whatever reason another novel idea refused the outline process like this one did, then I at least I would be more comfortable doing it because I've already done it now. But yeah, but it ended up working out. It just took a few more rewrites than maybe my typical novels do.
All right. I guess I should look. I'm horrible at my job. I should tell everyone who hasn't picked up the book and they haven't hasn't come out yet. Autumn Springs is about Rose Dubois and her lovely gentleman friend Miller, who I adore the relationship. Um, we really summed it up already. There are murders happening within this retirement community, and Rose takes it
Yeah,
herself to really, Scooby Doo the hell out of this. Let's get to the bottom of it. No one really is, no one's getting to resolving this. And you eventually feel like maybe you're the next on the, on the hit list. You better get in
yeah,
front of it before they get behind you, literally. And that's it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's something really fascinating about the idea of combining the two, the trope and the setting, right? And it's reminiscent of my novel Boys in the Valley, which you mentioned, because it's sort of, it's a demon possession in an orphanage. This is a serial killer in a retirement home. And part of me obviously likes that kind of mashup ability, um, and kind of making something different. But I really loved it. Yeah, so to your point, it's about a serial killer in a retirement home, and that's really all the hook that there is. And
It's
then
enough.
yeah, and this group of friends who feel like that the people who are dying are not dying. It's not natural, and there's something else going on. Whereas maybe some of the authorities and some of the people who are quote unquote in charge of the facility are kind of like, hey, man, it's a retirement home. People die, and that's part of the. It's one of the things I play with thematically throughout the book is the idea of the older residents being so familiar in a way with death and the idea that it is something that is closer than it is when you're in midlife or whatever, and juxtaposing that with the idea that people are taking someone is taking lives in a violent way, and that was something I enjoyed playing with, at least for the first part of the book.
This I get such a kick out of the novel. It's so well written. There's so much depth to the characters. You really, I mean, look, we're talking about 400 pages. You take your time with
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
You get to know this incredibly diverse, lovable cast of characters. Then you have incredible fun murdering some of them. Yeah, I'll leave it there. But what
yeah,
I really got a kick out of, and this might be just specific to me, so you can please feel free to be like, Sean, you're way off. But the more I got into the novel, the more I started getting these kids on bikes slasher vibes because, and
mm,
I'll qualify this, because when you get to a certain age, society kind of looks at you like a child. You kind of revert all the way back. You don't have the agency that you had when you were a middle-aged person. Now that you're older, it feels very much like those kids on bikes movies and novels where no one really believes them or pays them
right,
much attention. And I
right.
love that in this novel, that it just, they kind of have to take matters into their own hands just to resolve the horrific murders that are happening because they have to. They're
Right.
essentially left no choice but to get involved. Rose Dubois is a fascinating character. Please tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind her. How did you develop her?
Well, like I said, she kind of just she was just kind of there, and sometimes that happens with characters, and I feel like one of the things for me when I have a lot of different ideas and then they don't all end up being novels, but I think when I have an idea, one of the things I know gives that idea a little more juice is if like if 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 characters start popping up in my head. If I'm thinking about, making it up, a haunted roller coaster, and oh, that's kind of interesting. And then like, but and if after like a few couple weeks or whatever, like it's just sort of like dying on the vine, I'll kind of like move on. But sometimes I'll have an idea like I told you about, and I'll write it down, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, this character will pop up in my head and another character will pop up in my head and they'll start having like this scene together and they'll start talking together and I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. And then like maybe another character and then maybe like a scene will pop up. Oh, what if this happened? And so it's one of those, and that's when I know like a story has legs because it's like all these other things will happen in my brain. And Rose was just like this gift that was given to me where I had the idea, and even in that paragraph I told you about that I sent to my agent, uh, I think I called her like Ruth Dubois or something. But she was that early on. She was part of and I just knew I was going to have this strong, a complicated uh, female protagonist who was going to lead the charge, and and then I think what happened was when I started thinking about her relationship with Miller and why she was maybe resistant to having a more of a relationship with him, and I started asking myself questions, or I started asking Rose questions like why are you being this way, Rose? Like why are
Yeah,
you so
what gives?
resistant?
He's
And
lovely.
right, and yeah, and I just sensed this darkness inside of her, and I sensed that she had something in her history that was sort of hidden and but was dark, and that was something that, yeah, like I said, it was just there, and I just kind of had to kind of explore it a little bit more, and it ended up being a part of the fabric of the novel, and I don't want to spoil it, so I won't say any more than that. But yeah, so that's kind of what was she just was there, and she was, like I said, she was very complex, she was very dark, and I had learned, I wrote another character named Beth Darlow in my novel Third Rule of Time Travel, and I didn't want her to be like Beth. Beth is very driven, she's very determined, she's very emotional, um, but she's been through like hell, and it's made her this kind of brilliant, fragile, genius, you know, driven, but also like borderline shattered person. And with Rose, I knew I wanted her to be a little more in control and a little more, had that kind of like she's a retired school teacher, and I really wanted her to have that vibe of like, okay, everybody just sit down and shut up because I'm
Yes.
gonna start telling you about um, the Mesopotamian area or era or whatever. So I just had that. I just she her personality just kind of was, like I said earlier, I slipped right into it so easily, and then her complexity was something that throughout the novel, because I wrote it the way I did, even though I sort of knew what was going to happen, I knew what was going on with her. It was something for me to sort of slowly unravel along with the mystery of what's happening at Autumn Springs, these killings. I also was slowly unraveling the mystery of who Rose was, and that for me was kind of this parallel story track um, that I was like working on the whole time.
Loved
So
it.
it yeah, it gives her a very interesting arc, I think.
It's my favorite part of the novel. And look, that's coming from someone who picks up a novel like the Autumn Springs and it's like, oh, okay, I want to get to the juicy bits. That's essentially what drives me when I'm reading. But then, of course, after I finished that last sentence, which by the way destroyed me. But no spoilers. But bravo.
Yeah.
Um, by the time I get to the end of it, it's the depth of Rose and finding out her backstory that really resonates with me. Even though going
Yeah.
in, I'm like, all right, let's get to the kills.
Yeah, it's a slasher, baby. Let's go. Um, yeah, and I think that early reviews that I have read have people have really made that have commented on that, and they've commented on how some of the themes have hit them harder than they expected, going into the themes of aging and dying and elderly and how we perceive them and all that kind of stuff. So which are things that I know my novels, generally speaking, are not preachy. My novels are not socio-political. My novels are entertainment, 100% entertainment. But part of entertaining somebody is pulling them in emotionally and connecting them with the reader or connecting the reader with the story. So, but I very much write to entertain. So but that said, sometimes there are things that I like to, make a point. I have a point here, and the point is that I think it's important for people to kind of see it, hold up a little bit of a mirror to maybe how we sort of, as a society, perceive the elderly, and that was something I wanted to definitely touch on and kind of unravel a little bit within the story. So another thing which is evolves as the story goes.
What I love that you do is you present these characters and they're at a certain point, they're in their twilight years, and they want to have dignity
Yeah.
in their last moments. And that's taken away from them viciously
Right.
with these murders. And there's anger to this novel coming from them. Like it's essentially all we have left. And you're
Yeah.
taking that from us, and we're going to take it back,
Right.
any way we can. It's the core of the mystery. The mystery to this book is fascinating, and it's rich, and it pays off, which is the most important thing to a mystery. You can have so much fun going in. It's three quarters. You're along for that ride, but if it can't stick the landing, it's like all for naught with a mystery. You do a phenomenal job. I want to spoil it so bad, Philip. I have to watch myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Be careful. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. It was. I took some risks in the book. And
Almost.
I
I don't mean to interrupt, but
no.
I've read your work, most of your work. You've taken some risk here that yeah, you haven't in other novels. You've done
Yeah.
amazing things previously, but this is a little bit of new territory for you in some aspects.
Yeah. I agree. I'd agree with that. I think my stories tend to be pretty linear, and while everyone for every writer you want to certainly uh surprise the reader, and I do, you can do that with a set, with set piece or with a plot point, and subvert expectations is always something that any writer tries to do. But what I guess, but with this particular story, I was definitely, I wasn't subverting expectations. I mean, I guess I was subverting expectations as it pertains to a traditional slasher, but I also was trying to create uh yeah, to your point, I'm trying not to spoil anything, but it was
I
one of
know
those
it's so
things where
hard.
I was trying to do. I definitely took some swings in the sense of this is not just death and another death and another death and another death, and then like it was really about there are some speculative elements. There's a sprinkle of supernatural, which I don't think is spoiling anything, and yeah, and I did some things with that, and also with the killer that I think are probably were to my I guess were swings, were risks, and but I did that, but it was all very purposeful, and it all had there was a rationale to everything I did in the way I wrote it, um and part of that rationale was what I wanted to emphasize as important, as far as the story was concerned. And it's almost like sometimes as a writer, you're a little bit like you're taking the reader, you're kind of grabbing them by the head and moving them to look over here because you're like,
Yeah,
no, no, this is what I want you to focus on. Um, and this was kind of one of those things. But again, overall, um, this is supposed to be a fun romp.
it
It's
is.
supposed to definitely be entertaining, and then if the other stuff connects with you, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too.
There's humor to this book. There really is. There's a great sense of humor to it. There's a great sense of adventure as well. I mean, we are on an adventure with these characters.
Yeah,
It's chilling and it is murderous, but they are having, in a retirement community, these are exciting times, even if it does involve murder. One of the things that fascinates me most about you as a writer is that I can never figure out what you're going to do next. We've done creature feature and demonic possession and time travel and haunted jukeboxes. And now we
yeah,
have a slasher. You always have me on my heels, which I appreciate from you. Is it purposeful? Are you conscious of like, okay, I'm just, I did that. I'm on to something new. How does it you're constantly doing something different? Well,
yeah.
I might add.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it is somewhat purposeful. I mean, like my next novel is historical fiction. It takes place during the Civil War, so it'll be very different than anything else that you've read of mine.
Okay.
And yeah, no, for me, I don't feel I think there's a reason that every book to have a different publisher. I I don't feel beholden to repeating myself. I don't I'm not really interested in here's another Philip Fracassi novel that you kind of I don't I'm not trying to be uh you know James a James Patterson type or and I don't mean this negatively at all because
Oh,
but like a Riley Sager who's where like you know what you're getting with I'm more of I like to challenge myself as a writer. I like to do different things that excite me as a writer. I mean, for me, I don't write a book unless I'm excited about that story. And I like to your point exactly. I like to do different things, and I like science fiction. I like historical horror. You know I like playing subverting classic tropes. Like the slasher or like demon possession um so it's yeah, I think I just kind of like I'm always looking to do something new and something sort of fresh and not just within the marketplace because that but within for me too. Like what can I do that I haven't done that would excite me? And you're talking about when you write a novel, you're talking about spending between 4 to 6 months all in working on something and it's a big chunk of your life um and so you want that to be something that you uh personally are interested in and excited about. Otherwise, it's just work.
you
And
got to go there every
so,
day. You got to get excited about
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah. So for me, it's always just kind of like what interests me, what excites me, what idea do I want to, do I feel like pecking at next. Um, and yeah, so I like, I have, and so yeah, so it's always like I have three novel ideas right now. I don't really know which one I'm going to write next, but it'll be whatever one catches fire in my head, and one of them is actually catching more fire than the others. But there's another one that's coming up quick, so it's gaining ground. So we'll see. But yeah, and I just don't I don't worry about that stuff. I don't worry about like, oh, I have to write another novel because people like, and it's gotten me in a little bit of trouble in a sense. Like I think people readers I see reviews sometimes were like, I read this book and now I'm reading this book and I can't believe it's the same like writer, and they don't necessarily mean that in a positive way all the time,
I love
you
that
know.
about your work.
Yeah, so sometimes there are little people, you want it's and even with the science fiction novel, like they were like do you want to use a different name? I think we think you should use a different name because it's. And I'm like, why? I wrote it.
No, you want
Like,
the credit.
yeah, but my name. What are we talking about? Um, and so I think, and so it's just I don't worry about that stuff. I worry about is it a good story? Um, and am I enjoying writing it, and will people enjoy reading it? And I worry a little bit less about is it consistent with my other novels. And so even with my short stories, same way. My fourth story collection is coming out next year, and I think a lot of the stories in this one are different than the ones that I collected in the last one, and ditto for the first two. So I don't know. I think it's me wanting to stay on my own toes and kind of do something fresh. And I even like writing stories in different styles. I like exploring different ways of writing a story. With Third Rule of Time Travel, it's written very much like a thriller. It's kind of similar in a way to how I wrote Boys in the Valley. Um, I feel like Child Known Strangers was written much differently. It's more epic. It's got a lot more scale, a lot more characters, a lot more going on. I took my time a little bit more with that one. Took my time a little bit more with Autumn Springs. Um, Serafina that's coming out next year is really it's a little denser. It's first person narrative from a 17-year-old who was a Confederate soldier in 1862. So it's very different than these more modern stories or future stories as it were. So yeah, I guess I just worry about telling a good story, and I kind of let the chips fall where they may.
Well, it shows though that you take time and care to the story building because that's what resonates with your work. It's fantastic stories. Let's talk a little bit about some inspirations, specifically for Autumn Springs. You know, lit- what did you lean into from the slasher genre, if anything? Did you draw on any movies, books?
Um, no, I really didn't. I, I mean, other than what's in the database, from decades of watching horror and reading, but I was never really a slasher guy. I didn't, I wasn't a big Friday the 13th guy. To this day, I don't think I've ever seen any of the Friday the 13th movies. Um, and I
Ouch.
don't mean that as a badge of honor. I just mean I just am that interested. And I don't write about zombies. I don't really, I'm not really that guy. I'm more grounded, I guess. I don't know what the right word would be, but like Halloween though is one of my favorite movies of all time, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and so I don't. It's not that I'm against the slasher thing. I think I just like the ones that are more creative or interesting and have something more to say. So, um, but yeah, so I think with Autumn Springs, it was really about me drawing on, um, you know, it was. I don't think there was any outside influence other than what I've experienced in my own life and the things that I drew on personally. I have spent time in retirement homes. I was a film location guy for almost a decade, and so I I was on a set for a TV show called Yellow Jackets, which is
Okay.
now done very well. And the first season of that, one of my locations was this retirement home here in Hollywood, and and that was kind of part of the inspiration for the setting of Autumn Springs, along with some other locations that I kind of mashed together. But but yeah, it's really was I mean, that story is really about it's really about um, the people, the residents like
Yeah.
Rose and Miller and Gopi and Mickey and those are the guys that I really focused the story on, and then the slasher stuff. The slasher element, I think, was just I don't want to misstate it, but for me, it was almost more like a way to learn more about these characters and dive into the characters,
Yeah.
um, versus that's the point of the book, the kills. Um, so yeah, I don't. There's nothing that I can point to that I was like, this was like an inspiration for me. In this book or this story, it was really just more about having that setting in my head and these characters popping up and interacting, and then the idea of them, how they would respond to this happening was what was really fascinating to me. How all the residents of Autumn Springs would respond to the idea of like there's somebody killing people, and they're all kind of like stuck there. Um, so that's what fascinated me, and that's kind of what I built from. So unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for that. But other than I just kind of made it all up.
Philip, the answer is fine, and I'm kind of loving it because this novel is going to land in a year where there's some really great slasher fiction. You've got Brian McCauley's Breathe In, Bleed Out is coming out. You've got
Yeah,
Stevie Graham Jones. I mean, he's just like the slasher king. But this novel is going to hit in the same year that their work has come out. And if you never go back to the slasher genre again, it's going to be the perfect moment in time in the perfect book. And people will be referring to you when they talk about it. And I'm getting a kick out of it that you're like, yeah, I did that. And then I'm moving on to the next thing, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I've already got yeah. So no, I can tell you my next three books are already lined up, and none of them are slashers. So yeah, I don't know if it's something I'll return to. Now that said, I would like to return to Autumn Springs at some point. Um,
But in a with something different.
with something different.
I would love that. Great
Probably
setting.
not a novel, but maybe like a novella,
Okay. All right.
maybe. I don't know. I have some ideas, but I
Is
do like. There's a lot about it I like. That would maybe I
fan,
could see return. I could see returning. Yeah.
there's so much there. Fantastic setting. There's so much there. Many more stories left to tell. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because I know that you're in the film world. You can cast Rose and Miller. Who would you put in those parts? And it could be living or dead,
Oh golly,
right? It's tough. It's tough.
Miller. I think there. I don't remember the actor's name. Um,
What were they?
he was in a lot of Spike Lee movies. Old guy, and he had kind of this gruff voice, and he was just I can't. I wish I knew his
Las
name.
Davis?
Yeah, I see Davis. Yeah, he would be a great Miller. I
He
don't think Miller's black in
perfect.
my book, but he'd be a great Miller, and which is okay. And and for Rose, gosh,
This is the tough one. I know. I have trouble casting it in my head as well.
she's so uh see, because they like you want to say like Viola Davis, but she's too almost too tough. She's Rose is a little more vulnerable than that.
True.
And uh yeah, I don't know. I think it would have to be like a newcomer or an unknown almost. I don't know if there's a big star out there that could play Rose Dubois.
Well, look,
I
when it gets optioned, it's not going to be your problem or my problem. The casting director's going to have to take care of
Yeah,
that.
it's been optioned.
It has. This would
Yeah.
make a phenomenal limited series.
I can't say anything more than it's
Nope.
been optioned, but it has been optioned. So we'll see. I mean, there's a long road ahead for that one. But yeah, it's funny, people ask me sometimes about casting, and when I write, if I'm, if, and I don't ever have, and this is just being totally transparent. I don't ever think about actors when I'm writing a character, for my characters. But what I do sometimes do is sometimes I will scour the internet for certain characters, for just a person, for just a face.
Okay.
Not all the time. Not I didn't do it for this book, but I've
Interesting.
done it in the past where I'm like I can't quite get a read on who this person is or what this person looks like for whatever reason. It's kind of like boggy to me. And sometimes I'll just be like, well, let me just grab something up there and I'll throw it into my Scrivener file. And that'll be like the face I use for that character.
Features
So I do
help.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. It's rare. It's somewhat rare, but I have done that in the past. I didn't do it for Autumn Springs. I think I did it for I can't remember. I did it for one of my books, or maybe a couple of my books. But yeah, I don't cast my actor. I don't cast my characters with actors. I prefer. Even matter of fact, I just had this conversation. When I do some of my books they get reprinted as these deluxe editions, and sometimes there's illustrations, and the illustrator or there'll be a cover design or whatever. And I'm always tell the publisher or the artist, whoever, I'm like, please don't put a face to the name. Like you can be vague.
Yeah.
You can have a person standing there with like an overcoat and maybe whatever, but don't do like don't don't do like a face.
Yeah.
Don't tell the reader what this person looks like. Let the reader let them fill in the blanks on what I much prefer it. So it's kind of weird with me as I think I kind of prefer in a way that my characters aren't too well described. So I kind of let the reader have that like luxury of like having their own imagery for the characters.
It's funny you say that because I've had conversations with enough authors, and with this has come up, and they say, "Look, I don't cast it in my head because subconsciously I will draw on their filmography and it will
Yeah,
influence my writing. And
yeah,
I want to avoid that. So yeah, they just wait until the project's
or
done. And then the
or
answer I
yeah,
usually get is it's up to the reader to decide who they want to play.
yeah, or whether they're ticks or their mannerisms
Yeah,
or their voice. Yeah, I mean sometimes I will read a book that has been made into a movie or TV show or whatever, and you're stuck. If you've seen the movie and then you read the book, you can't.
you can't.
There's no way to separate it. You're thinking of
Awesome.
that character. and and that always kind of like I don't want to say it bugs me, but it's always it's always I always find it a little disappointing because I wish I could have just envisioned my own version of that character. But um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I'm kind of with those other writers, right? I prefer just to let the reader imagine what everybody looks like and sounds like.
All right, if you don't mind, I would love to get an update on some of the options and some of the projects that you have that are going to come to the big screen. It's so exciting. First, could you give us a little update, anything that you could on Alter?
Yeah, so Alter has been filmed. It was filmed at the end of 2024 and in Canada, Winnipeg, and I was up there for about a week with them, and that was really fun. And and yeah, it's in the. I can tell you that it's in the editing post production process.
Okay.
I think it was originally supposed to be it was originally supposed to come out this summer, 2025. It is now coming out. My last I heard is it's coming out summer of 2026.
Okay.
But
Fantastic.
they don't keep source material guy too much in the loop on
Okay.
that, what goes on. Every now and then I ask, what's going on, and yeah. So the last I heard was 2026. I think like with a lot of movies, I think there's like things they want to like maybe reshoot or add some more material before they do a final edit. So, but it's coming.
Got a great cast. I love that David Krumholtz is in it. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah,
I think after Oppenheimer and now Alter, we're going to have a Krumholtz-assance. So I'm here for it. You know?
yeah. Yeah, David. I got to hang out with him a little bit on set. He was very nice, as was everybody, all the actors that I met. It's always a very surreal to meet characters that you
That you
make up. Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's odd,
Got to be
but
a
it's
little odd.
yeah. I've had that experience before, and it's still weird. I wrote a I'm a screenwriter as well, so I wrote a screenplay for I wrote a bunch, but I primarily credited one for Disney, and I wrote one for Lifetime, and they were both weird in different ways. But the Disney one, it was weird when you saw the final movie and you saw these characters that you made up on screen. That was kind of cool. And but then with Girl Missing, which was a Lifetime movie that I wrote, it was actually even more bizarre because I actually got to I was sort of looped in with the casting. So to see all these different actors reading the same dialogue that you wrote, because I wrote
Yeah.
that screenplay, that was pretty surreal. But this Alter was a whole different experience because you're arriving. I went to the set, and for those who have read the story, a majority of the story takes place at this community swimming pool, and I went to the swimming pool set for like a week, and I got to meet Gabby, and I got to meet Gary, and and mom and dad, so it was that was pretty surreal.
It's
It was
funny.
pretty interesting.
The
Yeah.
last time we spoke, you were kind enough to come on my old podcast. We spoke about oh my God, Sam Raimi. Your favorite movie. Oh, I can't believe I'm drawing.
Well, there's Evil Dead 2, and then there's but you're probably thinking of Drag Me to Hell.
Drag Me to Hell. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
my favorite horror movie. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
you were just about to leave, and I was so excited for you. And you were like, "Yeah, I'm excited too, but I gotta pack." And yeah, it's like the real things about traveling. You're like, "I'm gonna be there for a week. I
yeah,
gotta pack."
yeah,
I gotta do this thing.
yeah. That was fun. It was fun. It was nice to be on because I work in movies. I work in movie, film and TV production, or I did on and off for like 30 years, and then for about 7, 8 years before I started
That's
writing
a
full time,
book
I was
right
doing
there, Philip. You got
yeah.
that book.
But it was interesting. It was nice to be on a movie set and be not have to do anything.
Yeah.
Be one of those guys with the that sits with the producers with the headphones and you're watching the screen, and it was nice. I could get used to it. So yeah, so hopefully Alter hits next summer.
Be
That's the
looking
update
forward
there.
to it. We'll cover it extensively in Macabre Daily. Let me ask you, the latest news was that J.J. Abrams is producing Failsafe, right?
Yeah,
With Brie
correct.
Larson starring, and is it J.T. Molnar who's directing?
Yeah,
That's
James
exciting as
Garland
hell.
and Brian Duffield wrote the script.
And Brian Duffield, who wrote uh oh my gosh, the No One Can Save You.
No One Can Save You, The Babysitter, Underwater, Jane Got Her Gun. Yeah, among many other things. Yeah,
Oh my goodness gracious.
he also directed No One Can Save You. Yeah,
This is
and he just
murder as
directed.
well.
He just wrote and directed Whalefall, the Daniel Kraus book.
Oh, get out. That's, well, I mean,
Yeah,
the talent
so
involved,
he.
self included.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah, it's a pretty. Yeah, there's a lot of talented people involved in this project. Um, yeah, JT's directing. Brian wrote it. J.J. Abrams is producing, and yeah, Brie Larson was attached uh, to star, and she's an executive producer. So, so yeah, we're excited. It's there's no real updates that I can share on that other than it's a process, but it's got a pretty good, it's a pretty good package there together. So, I'm 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 excited for it to be go to the next phase
I'll be
of yeah. But I think we'll be okay. There's a lot of times I've optioned a lot of different things, and they're in different phases of this and that, and that's one that's feels very imminent just because of who's involved. And it's been it's not like it just happened either. It's been you're talking it's been a few years.
okay.
So we're getting closer and closer and closer. And I think my hope is, knock on wood, that by the end of the year we'll have some more substance to that,
Okay. It's
news wise.
fingers crossed, sending all the good vibes, but that's a killer team that's attached to it. So, cautiously optimistic. I was
Yeah.
talking to Clay McLeod Chapman just the other night, and Ghost Eaters got optioned, and he happened to be doing some like location scouting, more or less. And
Yeah. I
in
saw
which,
him with the director
yeah, and
bouncing around. Yeah.
I'm so excited for him. I meet you guys. By proxy, I get excited. You guys entertain me, and then when things like this happen to you, I just can't help but feel great about it for you. And we're talking about it. And he said, "Look, I have to temper everything because they can go away like that,
Yeah.
you know."
Yeah.
So he's like, every day I enjoy the experience, but in the back of my mind, I just keep it there that it can go away. But he's like, but I am enjoying it very much. So there's that.
Yeah, and that's the right perspective, and it's probably a perspective that I should lean on more heavily than I do, because I'm a little more pragmatic, and I think, than a lot of artist types. Um, but it's my marketing and business background. But it's yeah, it is it's always great. It's always flattering. It's always welcome to have interest in your stories. Um, and but to Clay's point, 100% is it's so rare to get something across the finish line. It's so rare. I mean, Alter was sort of this miracle. I mean, it was optioned. There was a script. Um, then we had the writer strike, and
Oh,
even with the writer strike, which was 140 days or whatever it was, it still went into production within a year of being optioned, which is
was like
absolutely
unheard
insane.
of, right?
Unheard of. Yeah. And that's just because A24 fast tracked it, and they really believed in the script and the story. So, and had, the great director and a great screenwriter attached. And so, yeah, so that was a rare thing. And, but yeah, you just never know. And you just kind of like, most of the time it's out of your control, and you just sort of like hope to get updates and hope for the best. But that's why it's good if you're a working writer, you try and have as many of those irons in the fire as you can, because most of them are not going to amount to anything. Um, so yeah, so it's all, like I said, it's always flattering and it's always fun to get that stuff, and you just kind of like always hope like it's going to happen.
Oh, well, I mean, look, this is all looking good. Fingers crossed. Want to just touch on your events before I let you go. Um,
Sure.
I'm going to post your events. I went on pfracassi.com. They're right there. Everybody, the link is just right below to follow Philip on Instagram. And please go to his website. You can see all the events right there. But you've got, I think it's October 13th, if I'm not mistaken, you're at the Twisted Spine, which
Yeah.
probably might not even know because I know you have a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah.
But,
No, that sounds right.
that's a
In
new brick
Brooklyn.
and mortar that
Yeah.
you're going to absolutely adore. Lauren and Jason, who run the Twisted Spine, they've been working at this forever. I just wanted to let you know I'll probably be there in
Oh,
person
great.
there. Yeah,
Oh,
because
awesome.
I'm local.
Yeah. I have a whole tour that we've been working on with the PR company and with the publisher and myself, and we're hopefully going to announce the whole tour next week.
Okay.
So but that is definitely one of the locations that we are hitting. But yeah, I'm going to be like in like Fan X, Salt Lake
You're
City,
all
the fan, like
over the place.
yeah, I'm going to Poison Pen, I'm going to Murder by the Book, I'm going to Brooklyn, going to Mysterious Galaxy. Um, so I'm going to be, I think I'm doing something like 16
Same dates.
stops,
Okay.
16 dates. I'm going to be in New Orleans. I'm going to, yeah. So a lot of, yeah, so that it'll all be updated in the next like a couple weeks. So, but yeah, but one of the things I've been working on is getting that whole tour together, for September, October, and November.
You got it. I'll post it and then I'll look for the updates as well. And I'm more than
Yeah.
happy to post those too. Philip, this was such a treat. Thank you so much. The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre. Please pre-order this now. The link is right below. This is a fantastic read. I know this gets overused way too much this time of year, but this is the beginning of spooky season. This is a fantastic, scary, thrilling slasher adventure mystery. You got to get it.
Yes, all that I agree with everything you just said. I will add that if people who are listening want signed to pre-order signed copies, you can pre-order signed copies right now as of today through Mysterious Galaxy, also the Mysterious Bookshop in New York City, and Artifact Books and Encinitas, and Poison Pen.
Perfect.
All
I'm
those guys have links up for or pre-ordering signed books, and there'll be more added to that list. But as of today, and I know I like to pre-order signed books whenever I,
same.
get a book by someone who I, by a writer I follow. So I always try and make that available for people so they can pre-order signed stuff.
Philip, what I'll do is right below everybody, you are literally looking at where you can get signed copies. I'll make sure that I put it in the article.
Oh, thank you. Great.
Got it.
Thanks.
Least I can do. Thank you so much for your time. I
All
can't
right,
wait
buddy.
to talk again in the future. I will
Yeah,
harass you at some point, but good
please.
luck with the launch. You don't need it. The novel is phenomenal, and I just wish you the best.
Thank you. And we'll see you in Brooklyn.
You got it. I'll be there.
All right, dude. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.